and a very, very warm welcome to each one of you. So, most leadership conversations generally focus on what leaders do. Today, we will be pausing to ask a far more powerful question: who is the leader being when no one is watching them? And this is a question which has kind of shook chords within each leader when they were asked for this. So, yes, with this strong and a powerful question, let me welcome you all to the Womb Circle Conversations, a space where leadership is explored not just as a role, but as a state of being for sure. At Womb Circle, we believe that the most meaningful leadership shifts don't begin in the boardrooms or policies alone. They begin within, in awareness, in presence, in the courage to look inward before leading outwards. So today's conversation embodies that beautifully. And let me welcome our guest for today, Dr. Archana, who is a rare leader who has walked the long arch of transformation across 3 decades of strategic and transformational HR leadership. As a CHRO, as a boardroom partner, a mindfulness practitioner, and a globally recognized coach. Someone who has shaped institutions, influenced governance at the highest level, and yet continues to anchor the leadership in humanity, in self awareness, and inner work. This question is not about the quick fixes of leadership hacks. It's about who leaders become and how that becoming shapes the culture of the organizations and lives within and lives through that organization, right? So, if you are a leader navigating complexity, responsibility, and influence, a board member, a senior executive shaping culture beyond the matrix, a coach or a mentor or a facilitator with human potential, this is a conversation that you must listen to. And this is leadership beyond titles, beyond performance, and beyond agendas. And with this opening remark, let me welcome our guest for the day, Dr. Archana. Thank you so much, Dr. Archana, for joining us.
Thank you, Neha. I'm very glad that you brought me to this platform today. Thank you.
Yes. So while I was introducing you, I did mention that you have spent over 30 years in transformational HR leadership, right? And looking back, so when you started, right? So what are those real shifts and organization in terms of policies, people, inner mindset of leaders must be so that we bring out those, organizations which are more sustainable and which are lived through the culture. So what is it that you think about, looking back about these shifts in the organization which needs to be brought in?
Well, I would like to begin with actually appreciating the way you set the context. You made the job so easy for me, bringing out how this whole concept of leadership at the being level is important. Coming to your question, one is about the transformation that you're talking. The transformation is something which I have been, ever since my starting of the career, somehow, I've been into the transformation, managing it, steering it, and going through it. And I've realized that transformation actually is beginning at the level of the mindset in the leaders, and from there the transformation is happening. Any change, any organizational transformation, actually it must reflect in the being of the leader, and thereafter people pick that up, and thereafter the policies and structures and all kind of a provided infrastructure or a support framework so that it sustains, and people also get to know and get reminded every time what is the kind of change behavior that's expected. So this isn't just how the transformations are happening. What's important at this point of time is that we look at transformation, which is very much uh, futuristic, So when we look at today's time, we look at the way the AI is coming, we're looking the way the human and the younger generations are moving towards their thoughts and belief. Because tomorrow it is this generation who's going to run the organization and these new technologies. So in the boardrooms and at the leadership level in the organization, I think perhaps it's time that we open up and start thinking how the future would look like, how do we anticipate that, and accordingly to sustain, how do we transform both at individual level, leader level, and at the level of the organization.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the way I believe the changes will be required. Most importantly, we say the gist of that is we need conscious leaders for tomorrow, those who are very aware of what is happening at the human level, basically.
Hmm.
What is right for the planet? What is right for the humanity? What is right for organizations? And organizations in future, I can see it will not be only making money. Only making money if the objective is that that organization may not sustain. It has to be beyond that. A purpose is to be in the place. So these are the spaces where I believe we need to now and very have a lot of foresight, intuition, think about what it is and begin those transformation. So that's the place I think, and it's time. I actually we're losing our time. We should be very fast on that.
I think you wonderfully mentioned about conscious leaders being present at each level in the organization. I feel not only at the higher end, but even at every level of the organization, that helps the organization build in the culture it wants to set for the future, build in the culture that it wants its employees to imbibe and stay through it. So definitely, the word of conscious leadership is something that is a core takeaway from the message that you've shared. And I'm sure that many leaders who would be listening to this would definitely take a note of it. And you often kind of say that doing right of a leader mirrors their being as well. And this, during our coaching sessions or during our journeys, we've been kind of seeing, observing, and following as well. So can you share some moments from your journey, probably, where this became unmistakably clear to you, and you kind of took it as a mantra towards the success of leadership, probably?
Oh, yes, yeah, very interesting question, and I would like to very candidly and authentically share it from my experience. Okay? So the model that I say about being and doing is that uh, it is not cosmetically that a person should demonstrate the leadership quality. It must come naturally and authentically from himself. Now, that can happen only when the being level shift is there. So, for example, if there is a person who's empathetic, do you need to teach him compassion? Or does he need to feel
Definitely not.
compassion? Not at all, right? It'll come very naturally.
True.
Somebody who is very confident at the being level, do you need to teach him problem solving and decision making? The confidence, he will explore, do everything, make the decisions. And so my model says, and then what I say is that instead of putting kind of if I may just take that example, instead of putting the makeup, might as well really rejuvenate the skin. Yeah. So instead of
Wow.
teaching what are the competence of the leaders and then you try to tell them how to demonstrate, instead of that work on the being of the person at the soul level so that he enhances to that level, and the next of the things, other qualities of leader will radiate out of him. We won't have to tell him. Okay? So this way I have about 52 qualities. I say, I say 26 qualities this side have corresponding doing level qualities. So making a model and doing it, I think it's an easier part. Living
Wonderful.
it is day in, day out living. You won't be 100% every day. And also it's a growth journey. So when I became a CHRO, one of the realizations I had the background of making transformation all the time, which means the belief that whatever is there, you can have better than that. So what you're looking for is enhanced version of whatever it is, whether it's a culture, whether it's people or system. So when I became CHRO again in my new setup, I was seeing what all can be enhanced. Now that becomes a default version of you because you're getting tuned to that way of working. And that was
Absolutely.
inertia I was carrying. And then suddenly, after some time, I realized that, what actually I was not giving them in that process of enhancement was acceptance. Acceptance of the person, people around, acceptance of the way they were doing work, just as they are. And I believe that's the very first step, and it has to be very strong. So that was one of my realization, and when I started to work on that space. So I stopped talking about what is the best version, how should you be, or what can be done better. I just started spending time with them and appreciating what they already had, looking for what is good in them. And that built in I saw the shift in the connection. The depth of the connection grew. Okay. And once I realized the magic of that, uh, because acceptance gives a lot of psychological safety to people around. And also, if you tell them the way you're doing work is not that great, it can be better, then they feel little lesser about themselves. But when you tell them it's fine, and how they feel, the esteem has to be there. So when
True.
that level came in, then at that level, I said, now no more, chasing of the enhancement in the direct words. So I was clear, and I was mostly appreciating and accepting them deep down, and that's a shift I experienced, and it started giving me results. And then they themselves were keen to make it, better, and I was only guiding them, giving them opportunities, suggestions, and resources, and they were driving the change, not I was driving the change. So that was a big realization in my journey. And I would also say that anything that shifts within impacts every domain of life, not just one. So it was not just in office, in every other relationship, in every other ways that I was being. I think I have enriched myself very much, by way of this shift. And that's one of my testimonial to my own self.
That's very powerful. I must say, Dr. Archana, because shifting the being for yourself first, and then kind of guiding others to the right path is in itself is a very humongous task. And when you've done it yourself, you actually have gone through the stages and the phases of it, and you actually know what the person opposite to you would be kind of enduring in the due course. So very powerful and very nicely explained. And you did mention during the conversation about the 52 qualities of leadership model, and that really fascinated me. So if leaders kind of focused on just maybe a few qualities today, which would create a bigger shift, what according to you would be those qualities?
Okay, so one thing I would say is that self awareness is something that we really need to have. And as we grow up in organizational setups, more you're growing up in the hierarchy, I feel, you're losing touch with yourself because people are flattering you. You start to think that everything you do is right and you know better. And that's totally fool's paradise. Yeah. We must always keep ourselves constantly aware of who we are being and what we are doing and where we are. Now, the technique that comes out is, it comes from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and from our yogas, is that we can live in witness mode all the time. If we can start to practice this quality of living in witness mode all the time, then we are seeing ourselves also as one of the actor in the life's drama. So, how you behaving with your colleagues, how you're doing, what decision you're taking, whether you're showing up your executive presence or not, what is happening to your energy level? Are you a little down, fatigued, or are you into your best form to do that? Now, all of this comes into your awareness, and then the actions are right. And then sometimes, you can also observe and correct yourself immediately. So that particular quality is very, very great. I believe that's one thing everyone should have that. And we used to teach them in our yoga sutras in our culture right from the beginning when we were teaching meditation and yoga kriya, morning sandhya, evening sandhya. When you're observing, what is it? Mornings, Sandhya, you can associate with morning affirmations of how you will be throughout the day. Evening Sandhyas, when you're reflecting back and seeing how you have been all the day and how you can be better off. A lot of things can be integrated around this for self. Second important quality, I believe, is more on the empathy, because empathy is something where it comes at the heart level. Heart level is where once you come up the heart level of heart chakras and heart level, you're able to connect with others. Now, leadership starts only when you're connecting with others. Leadership in itself will be only self leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, when we're talking about the leadership with people, there are three components into the phenomenon of leadership happening. You and somebody following you, if you being a leader and some followers. So that the bond, the glue that is there is through empathy only. Only when we understand them, be compassionate to them, that they will follow us. Why
True.
else? Right? So that becomes another very, very important quality that leaders must have, yeah, and must practice doing both at the being level and doing level. Besides that, of course, there is a lot of awareness. It is at different levels. I say when the first levels you do is like these are your basic chakras. When you're demonstrating balance, emotional balance, that's your uh, uh, basic things, and then you can have confidence that comes at the solar plexus chakras. Then you come up to creativity, connections, and deeper down when you come at the anahat levels is where you start including people within your being, and that's where you should become a manager. I personally say that jiska anahat sufficient open nahi hai, once anahat which is not open, heart chakra is not open enough, you will not be a great manager. Just to become a manager, this should start trickling off. And as you go at the senior leadership level, it's your third eye chakra, intuition, foresight, strategy, planning, all of that should open up. So, at various levels of different levels of qualities can be practiced.
Wonderful. I feel that, it actually took me through all the chakras and then explaining which chakra would kind of evolve when and when it must evolve as well. So, amazing things that you've shared. Empathy is something that I truly believe that leaders must have because they lead from the front. People follow them as a leader because there are those qualities which they look up to in them, right?
Yeah.
So these are some things that definitely I feel wonderfully explained, Archana. And you've kind of worked very closely with the board committees, right? Like the NRC, like the CSR committees. Probably, considering these kind of understanding about the leadership, right?
Hmm.
What's that one leadership blind spot that you repeatedly see at the board level probably today? Because there are a lot of leaders with a lot of EQ, IQ, and the SQ, the social quotient that we speak about, right? So,
Hmm.
are there any blind spots that you have kind of recognized or seen or observed at the board levels today?
See, one I must say is that whenever I see board level people, I really appreciate them. The kind of concern that they have for the organization, the way they look for that. So far, wherever I've seen, and they're thinking very good about the organization and its interest. Uh, when I was seeing, probably maybe what I can see is that it can be even better when there can be a little bit of you can say a philosopher in the board, yeah, who can sit back and say, okay, so where is this organization going? What's happening to the culture of the organization? Are the leaders sufficiently grown? What kind of succession planning will happen? And it's not just at the level of just action and some activity, but deep down, as in what is the kind of leader he is, she is, where is understanding them as a human being, and providing that space where the leaders can open up and share more about the organization and about themselves and the challenges that they face, so that they can get the necessary guidance support, coaching, and mentoring from a senior philosopher board leaders, or coach board leaders. Many a times I see that people will say, okay, take only that much which is required to be shared with board. Why take so many things? They will ask so many questions. Uh, that should not happen. They shall become so free like a child in front of a grandfather who can open up and say, okay, like a teenager in front of a grandfather who can say, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm facing problem. So that is a space I wish that gets filled up. Hmm. Second space I see is if the see there is this CSR and some aspects that organizations to do for the community. Now I personally feel that if this can be seen as they own the organization, the same way can they own the CSR
Hmm.
and make this as a project, long drawn strategic intervention for the community and society so that other people can also develop. After all, any development in the community and society will be in the interest of the organization only. If people
Absolutely.
get, yeah, if people get educated, if they are healthier, they are better, you get a better workforce. Yeah. If
True.
environment is healthier, there will be better investment. You see how Delhi pollution is being talked. Investments might just fall because of Delhi pollution issues. So can we do something? Can we use our CSR that side? So the idea is, can we look into these things very strategically at
Hmm.
the Agnya level? Yeah.
Interesting. So, what I understand from your conversation is that how do we look at it from a more strategic perspective and from the perspective of kind of coaching or hand holding the people around, and not from the point of view of kind of pinpointing on things, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Interesting. Perfect. So your leadership development work has won global recognition, and we can kind of, actually relate to what you're saying, and we understand why it would have been globally recognized too. So, what was the differentiation about the way that you designed those programs, which made them truly transformative? So, please share some insights on that as well.
See, the program that I decided, the main differentiator from others is that I'm talking at the being level. And I'm telling that focus on 26 qualities of the being level, and the balance corresponding 26 qualities of the doing level will automatically happen. You won't have to do anything about that. So, no expensive leadership programs. It has to be an ongoing daily basis work with these kind of qualities like witnessing yourself, looking at what level you are, what level of being shift in the being is required. Then so it's a continuous process that I'm suggesting. It happens in life make does it to us by way of life experiences.
Hmm.
As we grow in life, we do come across events which in life which make us grow and make us more mature, more balanced. What we do it in the program or the model is that we make it structured and expedite the same process. So in order to become empathetic, someone has to go through pain, huh? Know what it feels like to be there. So
Right.
those kind of experiences is what is very important. So I'm not talking theory, not talking jargon. I'm talking live. I'm talking what they can see and relate with, and directly practice day on, day on, day on. So we in the IDPs we develop assessments. We do IDPs we develop. It is at the being level. You have many IDP at the doing level. Fine, the being level is more important. So it's I think that's the main differentiator, and a constant support that comes in by
Hmm.
back coaching. Yes.
Interesting, interesting. So, going ahead, right, you've experienced the womb circle as a community that we have built up for senior women board directors, senior women leaders who are in the boards, who are in that position already, right? So, what about such spaces which changes the way leaders think, they listen, they show up beyond far more roles, I mean, far more the formal roles of a director? So, how do you see these kind of spaces, and what is it that you would want to suggest for these kind of spaces? What kind of programs must these spaces have or include for women leaders, for board directors, for senior, leaders to be part of?
First, I must compliment you, and also I'm very grateful that you created something like this. Yeah, this platform is really handy.
Thank you so much.
Such places are the places where we can sit back, collectively talk, and see what do we go through, what do we see, what are the patterns, and how do we address. And at the same time, it is a space where we can reflect on ourselves also, as in what kind of board member am I being.
Hmm.
So, in addition to all the education that you're giving here, in terms of all the budget sessions that you have, AI sessions, various interesting sessions are happening. And when you can get all of these group members together in various groups, uh, where we can also see how do I grow as a board member, how do I overcome, where am I, and how do maybe I become more effective, more exploratory. That space will be very, very handy for all of us. That is something that you can be. And the very fact that we have all come together, that gives us a community. Otherwise, you feel very solo and little lost. But when you are there in a community, it gives you a sense of power, sense of togetherness, sense of and an ability to make some transformation at national level, real big spaces. So this is a wonderful space, and it should really continue to grow. I wish all the very best to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. In fact, that's the whole purpose of bringing together this community of women leaders under the womb circle, so that we have more voice towards, the policy advocacy, so that we have deep researches that we can do under this, under the forum, so that we have those kind of sharing of the best practices. Now, how is it that, if I am on some board and if you are on some another board, and how is it that we share those best practices which we can kind of, implement in our own boards, which are not there probably, and which help our companies to go from good to great? So that is the entire purpose of, having such communities like Boom Circle. And thank you so much for your appreciative words, Archana. And it really means a lot when it is coming from you as a leader. And I'm sure that, as you have championed the inclusive leadership for years together, right?
Yeah.
So help us understand what's that one uncomfortable truth about the women leadership that these organizations still hesitate to address honestly.
Women leadership issue.
Any truth that probably the organizations still hesitate to address, with regards to women leadership.
I think these guys are too busy among themselves. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, that's how I see. I see that most men are busy in their own race of getting into the higher position, and
Hmm.
okay, this is how it is. So
Hmm.
hierarchy is there. People are trying to get into the higher positions, and in that race, women are also there somewhere. Okay, so men are mostly among their own race, and it's going on. What actually is that when they see a woman, sometimes I believe they might just feel that, oh, they have a reservation quota and all that, so that might just make them feel little intimidated, or so they would. I think it's not specifically to women that they're doing. It's always the competition. So in competition, whatever the men, whatever the women, everybody faces the same.
Absolutely.
So it's that part going on, and I think slowly the number of women are increasing in the leadership up. Otherwise you would see that women, when I and that's the statistics I really got into my one of the case when I presented to the board, very early ages, at the time when workforce is when people are joining the workforce, the number of women are far more than the men.
Hmm.
Corporate also, number of women are more. By the time it is early management, middle management here, the number of women are dropping.
Absolutely.
So one is the leaking pipeline because of the biological and other things.
100%.
So stay on. Okay. Then somewhere they find it easier. Their road is very challenging. People find it easier to block it at the middle management level itself, so that there is no men. So you'll see very few going up till the senior management level.
True.
And from there, again, to break that barrier and get into the board level, you would get more women directly nominated on the board from the other agencies or by government or other sources, rather than women moving through the
Moving
hierarchy
through the ladder.
and going there, because we're going through the roadblocks which is happening in between. So
Absolutely true.
yeah,
Absolutely.
so far that's the journey that I have seen in my generation. I don't know how it's going to come up in the future generation.
Hopefully, we have more women who are rising the ladders and who have proven themselves. Because I heard Miss Amisha Vora, who was
Yeah.
speaking at one of our women directors conclave, and she said that when we were in the ecosystem, probably 40 years back from now, there were no women leaders whom we looked up to as role models, right? Today we are all here, we are at the stage, we are at the center stage, we have a lot of other women leaders to look up to, and then this creates a lot of motivation for the younger generation, that they have not one, not two, but many role models to look up to. And how is it that which direction they want to kind of pivot is on them, but then they still have people who have walked those paths at least. When we were at that stage, we did not have those kind of hand holdings or understandings with regards to these women leadership roles. So definitely what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And today I'm sure, we as leaders are being able to create some path towards, navigation for the younger generation to come in and kind of fill in those seats with the you say their capabilities and rising through the ranks, as you rightly mentioned, right? So definitely there's a lot of things that can be done still. But yes, as we just wrap up with this wonderful conversation that we've had, what's one simple yet a very, very powerful practice you would believe every leader should build into their daily life?
I think I would say witness yourself. Live in the witness mode and try to be as, I mean, try means what? Just be fair. Be in witness mode, be fair, and that's what will make us conscious leaders. No? We listen to ourselves within our inside our conscience. That will keep us on track. We don't need any great education or theory around that. Just keep listening inside. Yes.
That's so simple yet so powerful for sure. Thank you, Archana, for being here with us, for sharing your insightful, analogies, and it really means a lot. I'm sure the viewers have had their piece of takeaways too from the entire conversation, and I simply enjoyed this conversation with you. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks.